Welcome to the first episode of Four Tires and Fuel. My name is Cusumano.
And I'm Ashlyn Register, and we're going to bring you all the 2019 news of NASCAR.
Green flag is out. That means we're going to recap the Advanced Auto Parts Clash at Daytona. Paul Menard started from the pole, dominating the entire race, leading 51 of 59 laps. Rain played a huge factor in the race, eventually bringing out a red flag before the first competition caution, lap 25, and then once after that, and ultimately ended the race early. There was never any time to really formulate consistent runs due to the rain. We saw a lot of single file racing, but in the end, lap 56, Jimmie Johnson knew rain was coming, made a bold move for the lead, and sucked the air out of Paul Menard, causing the big one, taking out 17 of 20 cars. And then again, the race ended due to rain. This was Johnson's second Clash win and his first win since June of 2017 at Dover.
Following the Clash, Kevin Harvick had some comments on ending the Clash totally. He believes that it's too much money that teams are just wasting on cars and that it's just not a crowd pleasing. What are your thoughts on that?
I kind of look at it from both ends of the spectrum. I think that from a fan standpoint, the Clash is a good thing because, this thing began in 1979. It's only an exhibition race, so I understand where he's coming from in terms of money being spent on wrecked cars and all that. But I think it's a good warm-up for the Daytona 500 in the following week. And it's also a good test for these drivers to kind of get a feel for their cars, get a feel for the pack racing at Daytona. So again, I see it from both ends on how it's there's pros and there's cons, but ultimately I think the Clash should remain in place. And being that Dale Jr. himself is vying for the Clash to continue, I think that we'll see it continue here in the future.
In 1979, it only had 9 cars, and now it has 20 cars. I feel like from a crowd's perspective, they wouldn't want to watch 9 cars go around. I know I personally wouldn't watch 9 cars just go around a 2.5-mile track. Yes, it would make it more interesting, I guess, in a sense, but there really wouldn't be a big crash because if you made a move at the beginning, it would only maybe take out 5 of the cars, and if it took out all of the cars, then you wouldn't have any cars to finish the race in a sense. But I understand the whole money situation too. And talking about the Clash, Jimmie Johnson won the Clash, and he made a statement. And he hasn't won a race, like you said, since June 2017. And people said that he was washed up. Do you think he's washed up, or do you think 2019 is his season for Chase and Nate?
Absolutely not. Jimmie Johnson is a force to be reckoned with. Him and Chad Knaus. Like you said, end of the season last year, Jimmie and Chad split. There was a lot of uncertainty about both their futures. And for me personally, whenever these manufacturers change body styles, I always notice there's always a little bit of a delay or a lag in performance in that year, in that year of debuting those body styles. So I think that's what contributed to both of their lack of success last year. And like most things in life, people grow apart. You need to adapt to change. It was well documented over the years that Jimmie and Chad had their feuds. They always ended up working it out, but in the end, you know when you have to grow apart and adapt to these new styles. And I think this pairing of Jimmie Johnson and Kevin Meendering is going to be incredible. Again, this is the second year for the Camaro body styles, so I'm expecting a big year from Jimmie Johnson as well as all of Hendrick Motorsports personally, and all of Chevy in general. Kevin Meendering, he was with Elliott Sadler from 2016 to 2018 with Junior Motorsports. Only had 3 wins in that time, but the consistency was a big part of his success. And in the end, Elliott Sadler was in the hunt for the championship at the end of the year at Homestead. And then Chad Knaus, again, this guy is very smart. Him and Jimmie formed 83 wins, 7 championships, obviously. And William Byron is a very talented driver. He was always in the competition every race last year. They couldn't really close the deal out. So I think having Chad Knaus and William Byron as a team is going to work out great for them.
William Byron won the pole for the Daytona 500, and that was Chevy's 700 pole. Byron and Alex Bowman are the front row, and Hendrick Motorsports swept the top 4 spots for the first team ever to do that at Daytona 500. Do you think Hendrick Motorsports is a force to be reckoned with this season with new drivers and a veteran like Jimmy Johnson?
Again, yeah, absolutely. I think the lack of success last year was because of the new body style. So now that they have had time to adapt to that, and Jimmy Johnson's a guy that everyone in the garage area looks up to. These three young drivers in Chase Elliott, William Byron, Alex Bowman, they have Jimmy Johnson to lean on for advice, and I think they're going to be one of the top teams this year in terms of wins, consistency, and I would not be surprised to see all four drivers make the playoffs this season, and eventually, possibly maybe even three or four of them running for the championship.
This was the 5th consecutive pole for Hendrick Motorsports for the Daytona 500. In 3 of these last 5 years, Hendrick Motorsports has swept the front row. Okay, so now you feel that Hendrick Motorsports is in for a big year in 2019. Let's go down the lineup of the 4 drivers. What are your predictions for Chase Elliott?
I think Chase Elliott's going to have another great season. He had his breakout season last year with 3 wins. I expect more of the same this season, if not better. I predict around 3 to 5 wins. And he just barely missed out on making that championship 4 last year. I firmly believe he will be in the hunt come Homestead for that championship. What are your thoughts on Alex Bowman entering this 2019 season?
He has a really big legacy, I feel, to live up to in the 88 car that Dale Earnhardt Jr. drove for the longest time at Hendrick Motorsports. He came in last season with a bang, winning the Daytona 500 pole, but then he kind of just leveled off and would finish top 20s, top 10s, top 5 if he got lucky in a race. But I feel like he's going to be more consistent this season with top 10 finishes and maybe even a win, and if he's there at the right time. With it only being his 2nd season in the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series and him starting also on the Daytona 500 pole, what are your expectations for William Byron this season?
I'm expecting a breakout season from William Byron. Rookie of the Year last season. I think this Chad Knaus-William Byron pairing is going to be huge for both parties. Last year, William Byron was in every race, running top 15, even top 10. He just really couldn't close it out. And I think in his sophomore season, he's going to have a lot of consistency with Chad Knaus. He's a really smart guy. And I would not be surprised to see him even win a race or two here and there.
And lastly, we feel like Jimmy Johnson is going to have a championship caliber season, winning the Clash and this new crew chief and driver duo. We feel like he's going to have a really good opportunity to get his 8th championship this season. Looking ahead to the Gander RV Duels on February 14th at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we are now going to go through the top 10 starting positions in Duel 1 and Duel 2, and any notable drivers beyond that.
For Duel number 1, starting first is William Byron, followed by Jimmy Johnson, Daniel Hemrick, Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, Paul Menard, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Tyler Reddick, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. rounding off the top 10. Beyond that, we have Daniel Suarez, Ryan Newman, and Bubba Wallace.
Starting in Duel 2, starting in the first position is Alex Bowman, then Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Clint Boyer, Austin Dillon, Denny Hamlin, Eric Jones, Ryan Blaney, Eric Almirola, and Kurt Busch rounding out the top 10. Notable drivers are Jamie McMurray starting 14th and Kyle Larson starting 16th.
White flag is out. That means we're going to give our predictions for the Gander RV Duels and the Daytona 500.
For the first duel, who are you choosing?
I'm going to go with Martin Truex Jr. He's with Joe Gibbs Racing now. They got great equipment. He's a wonderful restrictor plate racer. I think it's going to pay dividends for him in the end. And I think he'll be starting 3rd come the Daytona 500. What are your thoughts on the first duel?
I'm choosing William Byron. I feel like the whole Chad Knaus and William Byron new mashup is going to be really good for him. And he's starting on the pole for the Daytona 500, so might as well go out with a bang, winning a duel also. For the second duel, who's your choice?
I'm going to go with another Joe Gibbs Racing car and in Denny Hamlin. Hamlin is another great restrictor plate racer, and he's not afraid to make those aggressive moves to get to the front, and he's going to need to do that in order to win the second duel. Who is your pick for the second duel?
My pick is Eric Almirola. Even though he's starting 9th in the second duel, he was the last technical winner at a restrictor plate race in Talladega last season, and I feel like he's going to have a really good season and might as well start it out also with a dual win. And now for the picks for the Daytona 500.
I'm going to go with Paul Menard. He had a lot of success in the Clash. He led most laps 51 to 59. Also, spotters are a big part of plate racing. Joey Meyer, Brad Keselowski's old spotter, has moved to Paul Menard's team now, and Brad had tons of success with plate racing. I think that this pairing for him as Paul Menard's spotter is going to pay dividends for, again, both parties, and I think that Paul Menard has a good shot at being your Daytona 500 champion. Who is your pick for the 500?
I'm choosing Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's had a lot of success on restrictor plate race tracks. Actually, his only wins are from restrictor plate racetracks. He always seems to be the one that causes the big one and always comes out on the other side without a scrape at all. So my choice is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's going to be there at the right place at the right time, which most Daytona 500 winners are at.
All right. You can catch the Gander RV Duels on February 14th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern, and then finally the Great American Race on February 17th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern.
That's all we have for our first episode of Four Tires and Fuel. I'm Ashlyn Register.
I'm Cole Cusumano. Thank you for listening.